to jump right in. I am gonna get things started. So I am so delighted to introduce you all to our project, the Poudre Food Partnership. This came about through an application written last year by 6 local organizations who we'll be introducing on this call to the 2021 USDA Regional Food Systems Partnership, otherwise known as RFSP. You may hear me refer to it as that. This is a USDA program that has both planning and implementation grants. And we applied for a 2-year planning grant, which we were honored to be awarded in October of 2021. And so over the course of this presentation, we'll just be talking about what we're hoping to work on, why we're here, why we're kind of calling this convening and gathering together, share a little bit of details about the USDA's RFSP program. And so to start, I would like to just quickly introduce the initial partners that are involved in the program. So let me see if I can get this. There we go. So there are 6 organizations that are sort of the initial, founders of this project and the grant recipients. We have 3 nonprofits: the Northern Colorado Foodshed Project, the Growing Project, and the Family Center La Familia. We have Poudre Valley Community Farms, a local agricultural cooperative, Recovery, a public benefit corporation, and lastly, CSU Food Systems. So we will deep dive into what each of these orgs is doing for this project. But first, I kind of wanted to just get us into some shared language about the RFSP program so we can help y'all better understand what the goal of this project is. So the Regional Food Systems Partnership is a fairly new USDA grant program, and it aims to support partnerships that connect public and private resources to plan, develop, and strengthen the viability and resilience of local and regional food systems. 30 projects were awarded for the 2021 program year, and we were super honored. We were the only Colorado recipient this year. And our project is specifically a planning and design grant, which means it supports partnerships that are in the early stages of convening and planning in local food systems development. And the terms local and regional were specifically left up to applicants to define themselves. So we just kind of wanted to share what we've defined as our local food system. And so we've defined regional as Northern Colorado. However, we do recognize that all of the organizations currently involved in the project are based in Fort Collins and Larimer County. So at least to start, that's our primary focus area. However, there is a lot of flexibility within the project because we did include that Northern Colorado language as the more general regional food system definition. And so now to provide you background about how our project came about specifically, I need to kind of start with a little bit of background about the Northern Colorado Foodshed Project. So building off of the important previous work done and being done in this area by many other amazing organizations and individuals in our community, the Foodshed Project was formed to coordinate holistic local food system development in order to grow the local food system in Northern Colorado by supporting demand, production, infrastructure, and organizational capacity building. But growing these areas requires really coordinated effort between public, private, nonprofit organizations, community members, producers, and resources across our region. And recognizing that when the 2021 RFA for this RFSP grant was announced, we, the Foodshed Project, realized this was the perfect opportunity to apply for some funding to kick off this process of continuing to build and strengthen and coordinate relationships within our food system in order to better strengthen it. And so last spring, we connected with some of our awesome established partners to work together to apply for this grant. That's the organizations that I just introduced, with the goal of designing and building a more equitable, vibrant, and resilient local food system in Northern Colorado. So that's our main mission statement for this project, which we'll break down a little bit later. But at this point, you might be wondering, like, the reason why all of you are here. And as I mentioned before, there are 6 initial project partners for this. However, that's really only the starting point of the project. As I mentioned before, there's been amazing work already done and being done in this area. And so our major objective over the next 2 years, and we'll get a little bit more into the objectives later on, is to convene and collaborate with other food systems organizations, community members, producers, local government, and more in order to work together on that mission and to plan and design our collective vision for what an equitable, vibrant, and resilient food system looks like in Northern Colorado. And so that's where you all come in. We wanted to introduce this project to you and get the process started to see if you're interested in working with us. So as I mentioned, we'll dive more into the objectives of the grant and kind of what the next steps are a little later. But to start, we're kind of going to go through what each organization is doing on the project to root everyone a little bit more into what we'll be focusing on. And so we'll be starting with the Foodshed project. You know, I have already mentioned the mission of our organization, so I'm going to jump right into what our contribution is to the Poudre Food Partnership, and that's abbreviated on our slide as PFP. So we have 3 main roles. We serve as the umbrella organization for the project, responsible for the overall management, coordination, and strategic planning direction. We will be working together with our partners to conduct research and conduct a comprehensive local food system needs assessment in a variety of areas, which we'll touch on in a bit, but most specifically, we'll be focusing on working together to develop comprehensive and inclusive community outreach and education strategies to engage the community and work to increase demand and access to locally produced agricultural products. And then we will be supporting the establishment and formation of a local food equity advisory council in collaboration with partners and the other orgs and people that will be involved in this project. And I will touch on that one here a little bit later on. But before that, I'd like to hand over the mic and introduce Stephanie Berganini with the Growing Project to introduce what they will be working on for this.
Thanks, Gabby, and thanks everyone for being here. So as Gabby introduced, I'm Stephanie Berganini, and my pronouns are she or they, and I'm the Executive Director of the Growing Project. The Growing Project, or TGP, is a Fort Collins nonprofit that uses food as a platform for social and environmental justice. Our mission is to build a more just and equitable local food system through hands-on agricultural experiences, food access, community building, education, and similar methods and mechanisms. We've been working toward this goal for almost 15 years in Fort Collins by offering a variety of culturally specific programs and by stewarding over 20 urban community gardens and small farms over the years around Fort Collins. So our growing space at the moment is centralized in one location at the FOCO Commons Garden on Maple Street. So if you've ever had lunch at the FOCO Cafe, that is our garden. You've also likely eaten food from it if you've been to the cafe because we donate a lot of our produce there. We are also actively on the hunt for a second space to grow into. So if you have any land that you need to be used up, please, please, please let me know. But we think of our growing spaces as kind of a project in reconvening. It is the Growing Project's garden, but it's a space that we always hope and plan to be open to and tended by the community as a whole. We also know that Northern Colorado is marked by racial, socioeconomic, and other disparities when it comes to the access to and the governance of food. So our work and our programs center those facing the greatest systemic barriers to participation and power in food and agricultural spaces, including Black, Indigenous, Latinx, at-risk youth, and unhoused members of our community. So along with La Familia, our focus in the Poudre Food Partnership will lean toward the food sovereignty and access side of this group's work. We'll be digging into and deepening our own internal program evaluation as part of that, as well as conducting additional community-based assessments. So this work is primarily going to focus on topics related to understanding the viability and effectiveness of participatory or commons-based type community programs, as well as deepening our understanding of community barriers to food and land access. We'll also be reviewing or developing new listening tools and other feedback mechanisms with marginalized and underserved communities so that we can really ensure that all of the work that the PFP does is accessible to diverse audiences and really representative of the variety of voices across the food system spectrum. So that's a bit about what TGP does, and I'll pass it off to La Familia to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Patricia. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I'm from the Family Center, and I'm actually the program manager for the MIVOS program. So the Family Center is a nonprofit multicultural family resource center with deep roots in Northern Fort Collins community. We've been there, actually just celebrated 25 years. Working alongside with diverse families to provide high quality childcare and supported services with an emphasis on cultural attunement with the Latinx community. The work is done with an explicit vision of creating a community in which all families are safe and supported and thriving. Mi Voz, which is, like I said, a program of the Family Center, works specifically with low income and Latinx community members living in Northern Larimer County mobile home parks to build leadership skills, support advocacy, and work alongside community members to address issues and identify solutions. Mi Voz works closely with the residents in working to develop leaderships. We have leadership labs that we host every year. Right now, we're in the middle of this cohort. We represent more than 500 mobile homes and try to identify and understand the community issues and determine the direction, approach, and process to address policy and system changes. In addition to the mobile home park residents leaderboard, we also use the promotora model. The promotoras are frontline public health workers who are trusted members of their community. They have a deep understanding and connection to the community, and their trusting relationship enables them to serve as a link between the community and outside organizations and agencies. The Family Center Promotoras program is a key piece to building the individual and community capacity by increasing knowledge and self-sufficiency through outreach, education, social support, and advocacy. So to capitalize on that, we're bringing together the Spanish-speaking residents to identify community food access issues and economic opportunities and advance community solutions in the area. For this project, the Family Center will conduct assessments and community-based research to help identify and understand barriers to accessing culturally appropriate foods and economic opportunities pertaining to producers and food businesses among low-income Spanish-speaking residents. And we will also gather community-identified solutions to ensure sustainable access to affordable, culturally appropriate, nutritious foods. The Family Center will work along with the partnership to interpret data, facilitate community and partner relationships to pilot community-identified solutions and iterate ideas to learn and adjust programs and systems to better meet community needs. The quantitative, qualitative data gathered by the Family Center will be gathered by the data gathered by the Family Center will inform strategies and goals across all entities in a partnership with the collective goal of increasing food accessibility and equity in Northern Colorado food systems. Whew, deep breath. So now I will turn it over to Audrey with Recovery.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually going to jump in here. My name is Natasha, and Natasha Lloyd. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the co-founders of Recovery, Audrey being the other. You'll hear from her in a little bit. But we are one of the newer faces on the scene. Recovery, we are a public benefit corporation here in Fort Collins. We are striving to build marketplaces to support more convenient access to local foods and support more equitable sales for our local suppliers, ranging from farmers to ranchers, bakers, everyone in between. So our contribution to the PFP or the Poudre Food Partnership in the first stage is really about gathering data. So we are looking at, we will be trying to really understand needs, barriers, understanding why only 1% of the locally produced ag is kept in Laramie County. That's shockingly low, especially compared to other counties and states that really thrive off their locally produced ag. So we'll be doing a lot of qualitative and quantitative data collection. Parts of it are starting now prior to our marketplace opening. So our marketplace will be operating in a renovated shipping container. It's yet to open, but there's a lot of data collection that we can do prior to that. And then once we open, the data collection will shift to capture the sales and all of that data, you know, looking at demographics of who's coming in, working with our partners to really capture that data and then figure out from there the best steps moving forward. So we're really excited to work with this partnership and other community members. So thank you very much. I will pass it now on to Gabby for PVCF.
Awesome. Thanks, Tosh and Stephanie and Patricia. So I will be representing PVCF and presenting on their behalf. Let me switch over the slide. So Poudre Valley Community Farms is a community-based farmland conservation cooperative with over 110 members. They currently support 8 local farmers with land and water access on 75 owned irrigated acres and over 235 leased irrigated acres, and that is growing. And PVCF will be providing a really essential component of the project to support production growth and land access, which is, as I'll touch on in just a moment, one of our key focus areas. And specifically, Poudre Valley Community Farm will be working to analyze the status of local farmland in our region, including the number of producers needed to meet local demand, the amount of farmland and water is needed by that number of farmers and the current farmers and producers in our community, changes to the first two with growing demand, current and ideal geographic distribution of farms within our region, and marketing outlet challenges and opportunities for producers. And we'll be using that data to inform strategies to better support producers and the folks that grow our food here in northern Colorado. So finally, I will also be presenting on behalf of Dawn Filmini. She's one of the partners for this project for CSU Food Systems role in the project. So CSU has been working to facilitate discussions with a variety of food systems partners that have emerged and grown in the region for over 2 decades, many of which are those organizations I mentioned earlier that have done a lot of amazing progress work in these areas we are wanting to focus on, as far-ranging as water and land conservation organization to those running food markets and supporting young and beginning farmers, to those concerned with food access and justice within the food system. So through Dawn's support of this project, CSU Food System will be collaborating on outreach initiatives, applied research projects, and any activity where integrating students as participants and co-creators adds value to this project. And this slide just represents, you know, a variety of different programs and collaborations within CSU's food system. And yeah, they will be working to bridge these initiatives and partners to explore the variety of different concepts on the slide. So that is our group of awesome partners. And now I want to switch over to talk about the specific objectives for this grant. So just to give a little bit of background on this visual, we created this visual when we applied for the grant to kind of represent, what are we wanting to work on? So in the middle, you've got an equitable and vibrant Northern Colorado food system, which is our goal. And then it goes into kind of each of the different partners and the different areas that they focus on and have areas of expertise in. And then those are centered by what are called our 3 key areas of opportunity and growth. And so, I mentioned previously, our goal is to design and build a more equitable, vibrant, and resilient local food system in Northern Colorado. And so equity, vibrancy, and resiliency represent our shared values and guiding principles for the project. However, our three identified areas of opportunity and growth are those that circle this visual. So food sovereignty and access are our first focus area. We'll be working to address the barriers community members face when producing, accessing, and advocating for local agricultural products, and work to create an equitable food system to ensure the rights of all people. Our second focus area is community outreach and education. So working together to collaboratively develop inclusive community outreach strategies to educate and engage the community in the local food system. And our third and final focus area is production growth and land access. So as I mentioned before, in order to meet growing demand that might be developed by those first two objectives, or first two areas of opportunity, we need to ensure that we are supporting local producers and understand their needs and the barriers they face. So each of these three areas sort of represents the various things that each of our organizations just shared that we'll be working on. However, I do want to note, we wrote this with the intention of what we're planning for. However, this is a planning grant. So while these will be the core three areas we focus on, it's flexible within each for what the direction of those might look like as we move through this planning process, bring on other partners and community members, and continue to expand on this. And so that leads me into our main objectives for the project. So these are the three key goals that we are aiming to accomplish through this grant funding. The first of which, I briefly mentioned, is convening community collaborations with established and potential partners to envision, define, and design our local food system scope and structure. So, that's where all the folks on this call and those that are not, who are interested in working with us on, this project that we're outlining, working together, convening to, to co-collaborate and define what we think the food system could look like, does look like, et cetera, within those areas of opportunity that I just shared. Our next objective is to conduct a comprehensive local food system needs assessment. So, that has been done previously here in our region and in the last decade, and that has been invaluable to the support of a number of our organizations in different ways. And so now we are wanting to, restart that and conduct another one to look into the current environment, especially coming off of 2 years of a pandemic. Building upon, what data and information is out there to better understand the needs of our community. So that will involve collecting and analyzing data within those three areas of opportunity to develop innovative, sustainable, and community-driven solutions towards our vision of a local food system. And that will entail conducting assessments, interviews, feasibility studies, and that will be each of the different partners on this have different areas they'll be focusing on, but it will be done through collaborative solutions, different areas of crossover, cross-pollination, and partnership, and with other organizations and folks that will be joining on this project as well. And finally, our third goal is to form and establish a local food equity advisory council. The goal of this is to promote interconnectivity and inclusivity by prioritizing marginalized voices within the food system, to generate dialogue between diverse stakeholders and community members, and to build capacity for leaders in a more equitable framework. So, speaking to those first two objectives, those will be happening pretty concurrently and right away. We're aiming to start that here really soon. But objective three, we recognize that this will take time. We have to intentionally spend time building relationships of trust amongst these diverse different communities and stakeholders. And so we will be utilizing the information gathered during our needs assessment and in our collaborations with other organizations and partners on this project to help inform that objective and that process. So that is the goals of what we'll be working on. And now we would like to share a little bit with you about what the timeline of that will look like. I may have gone over one. There we go. And I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to do that.
Excellent. Thanks, Gabby. Yes, so I'm going to talk a little bit, just dig a bit into our timeline and some of the deliverables and things that we hope to complete throughout the process of this project over the next 2 years. So as we've mentioned, this is a 2-year grant. We did find out that we received it in October of last year, but it's certainly taken a little while for us just to get our feet under us in terms of founding members of the partnership. So our grant team thus far has had several meetings just to figure out all of the logistics about how to do our reporting requirements to the USDA, just everything about sort of what that relationship will look like. Just planning the framework of what we want this partnership to look like, to develop a group charter that will sort of form the framework of how we operate and how we invite and continue community partnerships, to begin brainstorming ways that we hope other community members and organizations can join in this work, either formally or informally, and also to plan events like this one to help kind of launch and announce this partnership to the public. So that's where we are right now. We hope that the bulk of time this year in our first year of the grant will be spent in 2 main areas that Gabby just touched on. So the first is to really take time and plan out and then complete this community needs assessment of our local food system. So this will be a huge undertaking. We want to give it the time that it deserves. And so we're planning on conducting that throughout the rest of this year. And as Gabby mentioned, the second thing that we want to do is really think through what this Food Equity Advisory Council could look like, what role it could play, what we hope the outcomes of having a council like that could be in our local food system. We hope that the bulk of next year and our second year of the project will be spent analyzing everything that we learned during this first year, and then collectively working with the community and the network that we create this year to really put together a strategic vision that outlines how we'll put what we learn into action in the future. So you'll go to the next slide, Gabby. So to kind of reflect that timeline, we have broken this grant down into 2 phases, a discovery phase and a strategy phase. So I'm sure that we will kind of learn and fine tune the finer points of the calendar as we go, but roughly speaking, the 2 phases correspond to the 2 years of the grant. So this year's phase 1, the discovery phase, is all about learning. So basically a bit more detail about what we hope to do this year. We want to convene the founding members of our partnership and start thinking about what our local food system is, what is its scope, what is its structure, really make sure we have kind of that base level of understanding. And then take some time to develop and plan these community engagement processes. Once we have those things ready and it comes time to actually do a lot of this research, we want to conduct these food systems assessments that are relevant to the 3 areas of opportunity and growth that Gabby mentioned: food sovereignty and access, community outreach and education, production growth, and land access. And we want to really be very interdisciplinary and mixed methods with that in terms of how we go about this, just to make sure we have kind of a very robust set of data that we're collecting. So we are thinking about market research, community-based participatory research, community meetings, interviews, surveys, and all kinds of other research mechanisms that will really give us this very holistic picture of what our food system looks like. And a very key part of that is this piece of engaging other organizations and community stakeholders in this whole process. So we very much do not intend that it is only our organization, group of organizations undertaking all of this. We very much want to put together a network of other community orgs and stakeholders to facilitate dialogue, share opportunities and challenges, kind of start to develop community connections and community networks that will build on what already exists and kind of set us up strongly for the future. And then we also this year just want to determine the goals and desired outcomes of that local Food Equity Advisory Council. So if the discovery phase was about learning, then phase 2, our strategy phase, is about planning. So in 2023, during the second year of this grant, we hope to be taking everything that we learned from this community needs assessment and really doing a deep dive into all of the analysis of that data with a lot of different outcomes for that process. So first, for this grant, this is, as Gabby mentioned, a 2-year planning and design grant. So one of our main goals with this is to take what we learn and take these kind of strategic action plans that we come up with out of this and develop them into a second phase implementation grant from the USDA to really give us the financial support that we need to put a lot of those plans into action. But I think all of this work is not meant to be limited just to this partnership or to that implementation grant that we hope to apply for. I think we'll be generating an enormous amount of community-based research that is valuable on its own, even if we never, kind of move on into that implementation phase. So along with this comes all kinds of reports and other things that we'll be able to share with the community just about the state of our food system, what works well, what doesn't work well, where we think we need to go from here. So this should be a really great source of just truly community-based research about our local food system. We'd also like to convene partners and stakeholders and our whole entire regional community to just have a big gathering to share all of our findings and talk about what we've learned and everything that we've kind of gathered throughout this process. And then in our second year, we would like to be continuing the design and formation of this Regional Food Equity Advisory Council and to have finalized a plan for how to go about sort of piloting this idea by the end of this 2-year phase. So this is a planning and design grant. So really our final end goal at the end of this is to have taken the time, done the deep research, built the trust, built the networks in the community to have a very good and thorough understanding of our local food system and where it works and where it doesn't work and how it could improve, and to come out of this at the end of 2 years with a plan of where we'd like to go from here. So those are our goals overall, and I'm going to turn it over to Audrey and then to Gabby to talk a little bit more about what that means and how you can get involved.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi guys, my name is Audrey. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of the co-founders of Recovery alongside with Natasha. This slide is to talk, and this is a fun slide, so I'm really glad I got assigned it. This slide is about the Colorado Food Summit. This is something that will actually be held in December, but there are a lot of regional gatherings that are happening before then in all parts of Colorado. There's been about maybe 10 or 11 at this point. And these regional gatherings will help bring topics to the table in December for the All Around Colorado Food Summit. So Poudre Food Partnership was asked to help coordinate this. And as like one of our objectives that Gabby mentioned, objective 1 being helping with convening and collaborating, we felt that this was a perfect fit as we're getting our footing. So this will be April 5th. All folks on the call, you are welcome to come. This will be held at the CSU Powerhouse. We are limited to 60 people in person, but we have a limitless virtual community that is also welcome to come. We are sending out the invitations hopefully by the end of this today, if not tomorrow. And this will be the Northern Colorado Regional Convening. And this convening will help support discussions surrounding broad food and agricultural topics within our region. And like I said, from this event, these themes will be submitted down to the Colorado Food Summit that will be held in December. So it's a really great way for us in Northern Colorado to kind of bring topics to the table to say like, what's working, what's not working, what are our concerns, what are things that we're passionate about that we want to see and help foster grow within our community. So be on the lookout for an invitation from us. Check your spams because our domain gets flagged sometimes. But we hope to see you all there. And this will be a wonderful time to also meet other organizations within Northern Colorado. There will be a little bit of networking ahead of time if you come early, and food will be provided. And it's a great way for folks to meet other organizations that are in the food systems realm, whether you're a farmer or an advocate or an organization. It's just a really great way to have our own gathering. And my hope and our hope is to have more things like this in the future, which is part of what Stephanie had mentioned in our strategy plan. So hope to see you guys April 5th, if not in person, online, and we will be recording it just like we're recording this. And we will have a YouTube channel posted. So if you are unable to attend, but you want, the catch up or the skinny of what's going on, be sure to look at our social medias or other things to kind of stay in the loop with us. So from there, I will pass it on to Gabby.
Thank you, Stephanie and Audrey. So one other thing that's super neat about this regional convening, so as Audrey mentioned, it is in connection with the larger statewide Colorado Food Summit to help elevate regional voices into that statewide conversation. But another sort of like little fun fact that I'm personally very excited about, if y'all are familiar with graphic facilitation, there is a local graphic recorder who will be reviewing the recording of the meeting and creating this beautiful visual of what we go over during that conversation. And so that will be a really awesome resource that we can all utilize and share to go over what we collectively discuss at that convening. So that leads me to where we are now and what are next steps. So as it's been mentioned a couple of times, we're still putting processes and plans in place in order to begin the convening side of this. However, we'd like to begin conversations as soon as possible with those who are interested in working with us on this project. So currently what we're imagining the process to look like is, at least to start, some regularly scheduled general meetings to kick off our collaborations that then ultimately lead into some individual working groups that will be specifically focused on each of the key areas of opportunity. And so if any of you are familiar with Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, they are a really amazing model for how they organize a bunch of different diverse stakeholders and community members. And so we've looked to the way that they've organized things. And so that's kind of a similar model to what we will imagine in designing our process to look like moving forward. So if you would like to work with us, get involved or stay up to date, there's a few different ways to do that. As Audrey mentioned, we are helping host this regional convening in a couple of weeks. And we will be using some of the information from that to support this collaborative regional food systems partnership process. So if you'd like to sign up to attend that, there is a QR code on the screen that you can scan. I think it takes to the Eventbrite. I'm actually not entirely sure where it goes. So someone from our team knows, just drop it in the chat to say where it goes. If you'd like to just follow along, rather than, if you can't make it to the regional convening, or if you just want to learn more, or just, generally follow along with what we're doing on our process and receive updates, please follow us on social media at Poudre Food Partnership. Awesome. Tosh just confirmed that that bottom QR code will take you to the Eventbrite to register for the regional convening. And sign up for our newsletter. You can use the first QR code in the middle of the page. It'll take you directly to sign up for our mailing list. And we promise not to send you a bunch of emails. We'll just be using that as a way to keep the community updated on what we'll be working on. And probably one of the first initial emails to go out to that list will be to solicit folks to sign on for the sort of convening and collaborating process. Eventually, I think we'll probably divvy it up into a more general updates mailing list and then a more, folks who are working on the project mailing list. So gonna leave that up for just a second before I move on to our Q&A slide and get into that. And at the end, we will come back to the slide. So if you haven't had the chance to scan the QR, you can do so. All right, so now we just want to say a big thanks. This is our story, and we're so grateful for all of your time today to share it with you. We're so grateful for all the other work that's been done in this realm already for us to continue helping support and work on. And we're really excited for what this will do to support our community. So before we move on to Q&A, I just want to pause and see if there's any final thoughts from any of the partners on the call that maybe popped up when we moved on to different slides. I'll just give like 7 seconds for that. And feel free to unmute if you have one of those.
Hi, good afternoon, Bob Overbeck, Lerma County Assessor. Sorry I came in late. Sorry I didn't raise my hand. I just opened up my mic here. And one of the things I thought I'd just share with the group here, as you explore and do your planning and look at maybe your food providers, the assessor is charged with valuing all property in Lerma County, and there's a special assessment for those for agricultural producers. So that's a consideration, and also if they're for-profit or nonprofit, and there's some processes to go through to make sure you get an exempt status, and you have to do it right to be able to get it from the state. It takes the state about a year to approve an exempt status for a nonprofit or charitable organization. But I had a bill drop on my lap. I thought I'd share with you guys that's in the legislature that is relevant maybe here. But the bill is 1301, and it's concerning the treatment of controlled environment for agricultural facilities for property tax purposes. And essentially is how do we value vertical farming? And that might be a very unique, resilient way as we deal with climate change to have crops growing in our local economy and reduce our carbon footprint. So I just thought I'd just share a few things with you as I came into the middle of your really, really good presentation. And please feel free to reach out to me if I can be of service to you.
Thank you so much, Bob. Really appreciate you sharing all those details. It's great to meet you. And I know we'd love to, after this call, follow up with you to stay in touch and talk with you a little bit more about those things you shared so we can make sure we stay up to date on that. So thank you so much for coming and for sharing those things. We are super grateful. So yeah, I guess we'll just pause here. It doesn't seem like there was, I don't know if there was a bunch of questions in the chat. So we'll just pause a little bit and see if anyone does have questions about what we're working on. We welcome any and all, and if we can't answer them now, we'd be more than happy to follow up with you. And if questions pop up after this, please feel free to email us at this email address at the bottom. So I'll just pause here, give a little bit of time, and if there are no questions, no worries. I actually will pause on this screen while we wait. So that way, if you want to scan the QR code and you didn't have a chance, you can. So just give it a quick minute. Feel free to unmute or jump into the chat. And if there are no questions, we'll close a little early.